Well, the next special guest this week, it's rather timely as the Olympic Games at the time of this conversation were a day out from the opening ceremony. Some aspects of the Games have already begun with some of the team competitions such as the football and the baseball and things like that, but officially does kick off after the opening ceremony tomorrow night. A passionate St Kilda supporter, but also a six-time Olympic medalist, including 2 gold, and an 11-time Commonwealth Games medalist, including 5 gold across the journey. I won a stack of medals at Pan-Pacific and World Championship levels as well. I speak of Michael Klim. And Michael, thanks for jumping on with us.
Thanks for having me, mate. It's definitely a pretty exciting time in sport, and obviously, the Saints are doing okay this year, but it's always roller coaster following them. But I'm always. This has been a very interesting lead up to these Olympics, so really looking forward to the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, this year's been a classic example of a roller coaster for them. When a lot of people look at the famous footage from the 2010 grand final of Eric Banner going ballistic in the last quarter, they may notice that they look down the camera that you're in the front there as well. There seem to be a lot of the famous Saints fans in that area. Can you sort of tell us where it started for you? Where did the love of the Saints begin?
Oh, look, I arrived in Australia when I was 11 in 1989, and we moved into Moorabbin, just off South Road, and I was this this kind of chubby Polish kid, had no idea really what AFL was. I started watching, these guys are running around on the telly with these kind of singlets, kicking a funny shaped ball, and I had no idea what the rules were. But every weekend, and there was people just swarming the streets and wearing the red, white, and black and heading down the road. And one day I ended up just following the crowd and getting to Moorabbin and followed Plugger and Stewie Lowe and Spud and all those, Nicky Winmer. And Dad and I used to go in the outer and watch the footy, and now I became a pretty avid Saints supporter, and obviously then moved on to the likes of Nick Rewald and Lenny Hayes and Nicky Dowell and all those sort of guys that got so close, but yet so far. And then obviously following the new crop at the moment.
So coming from overseas and then discovering the game, and so as you're saying, watching on TV to begin with, then going to it live and seeing them live. What struck you most? Maybe the speed of the game, the size of the players. What was the biggest thing to hit you?
Oh, look, I was always into basketball as a kid as well, and a bit of volleyball, and obviously non-contact sports, and just seeing the likes of Plugger just running through people in the forward line, and just the ferocity, I think, and just playing under some horrendous conditions really sometimes, so the grounds weren't as good as what they are today, and the rain, hail or shine. So I think I appreciated just the length of the game as well, and the endurance, the athleticism that the players possessed. And the game's developed so much. Even you see what the guys are doing in the air and on the ground, and the skill they have, the vision. I'm in admiration of them.
It was obviously the water levels at Moorabbin that drew you into swimming then later, was it?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, look, absolutely. I think obviously, the drainage could have been much better down there. But, so I grew up around the Bayside area, swam at King Club in Cheltenham where the boys actually did a lot of their recovery, and used to pick up the orange peels as well after they came and dropped them all around the ground. But, so we, I used to watch Rob Harvey, when everyone had the Arvo off, he'd come down to the King Club and, smash 20K on a treadmill just to top up his training, So just that work ethic that he possessed, and a lot of the other players had as well, was a great thing to watch.
So what was it in the end that I guess
did you
into swimming?
For me, I learned to swim at a very early age, and we moved around the world a lot. And when I came to Australia, for me, it was something that I had to do. It was even before I went to school, and I went to school at uni high. But before we even got there, and so I put my name down, I went to this state swimming centre where the Fed Square is now, and on Batman Avenue, and signed myself up to the Melbourne Vixen Swimming Club. And for me, swimming was something that was, like a passion that I had from a very early age. It was the only thing I was really good at, to be honest. And you know, as a kid, you tend to gravitate to, you know, the skills that you have. And yeah, it was something that, you know, I had pretty good endurance. I was pretty explosive, versatile swimmer, and you know, I kind of hit my straps when I was sort of 13 and started winning a lot of the junior national titles. And at the age of 16, got tapped on the shoulder to move to the AIS in Canberra. And you know, I had that real quick transition from junior sports to open ranks, and was a bit of a baptism of fire when I sort of got to Canberra, because it's, you know, it's almost like going from, you know, school footy to the AFL. You know, I really had to, you know, learn quickly and learn on the job, and it took me a little while, but the results came eventually.
Did was it ever? I mean, you spoke about arriving in Australia when you were 11. As a teenager, you were an Olympian, so there wasn't obviously a huge amount of time in between that. But was there ever a temptation to pick up a footy, or did the people around you sort of say, "Mate, you'll break a leg, you'll rip your shoulder off, so that'll be the end of your highly lucrative swimming career"? Was there ever a temptation? Or
oh, look, I definitely kicked the footy around at, you know, at recess and lunchtime, and I played basketball a lot, and I used to get injured, you know, pretty much every season. And my swimming coach, Gene Jackson, he said, "No way, you can't do this anymore. It's sort of, it is going to affect your swimming career." But look, I liked sports in general, and I kept on playing. I played a couple house games at Wesley College eventually when I started going there from year 10. But I wasn't, you know, I had very lax joints, and even though I was fairly a big fella, I kind of wasn't very solid at all. So a couple hip and shoulders and I'd be in pieces. So it probably was a wise move that I didn't get on the field.
Your first Olympic experience was Atlanta, 96. I guess a bit of a two-part question, but A, what's it like to put on the green and gold and walk down that, you know, the stadium in an opening ceremony? And B, I guess you were ranked number 1 in the world in the 200 freestyle coming into that games and didn't quite work out. What happened?
Look, you know, I'll start with a good answer. You know, obviously representing a country at any level, I mean, and then obviously getting to the Olympics is, you know, is an amazing honor to start with, but it can also be pretty daunting. And, you know, you have that expectation. And so for me, it was, you know, I was lucky enough to qualify first, and I had a really great build-up, and I thought that the Olympic Games was going to be pretty straightforward. I'd get to Atlanta and almost collect my gold medal, but you know, things didn't go to plan. I was way over my depth in terms of mental preparation. Physically, I was probably ready, but you know, I didn't handle the occasion at all. I got butterflies. I lost my race strategy. I sort of just, the occasion got the better of me, as I said. So I definitely learned from that, and I don't know if I would have got the results that I did throughout my career if I didn't have that, unfortunately, you know, that negative experience. And I sort of was lucky enough to fix those mistakes and get on the right track, change a lot of things in my swimming, from my technique, started swimming with straight arms and wearing suits and swimming underwater, etc. But it's an amazingly nervous and nerve-wracking kind of situation when you're walking out in the last heat and they announce your name as, you know, ranked number 1, etc. And that was only really my second or third open meet, and I definitely dropped the bundle.
They mentioned running into halves, going down and doing the extra running on the treadmill, that sort of thing. But on the swimming side, have you seen many of the, I guess, former players or even current players that have been out swimming and thought, hey, they're not too bad, or any has he gone that, okay, swim like a brick? Or
I remember doing like a bit of a down at Frankston when we had the club, you know, the club sort of open days, and I did a couple like a board race with Armitage, and he was really impressive, actually. He beat me, to be honest. So, so the boys, I think that, and Nick Rewald was super athletic too, obviously, having grown up all around the country. And I think generally they were, you know, swimming's a different sport. It's a different breed. So anything on land, those guys, I could, you know, obviously see them playing footy and basketball and whatever. But there was a couple guys that were okay in the water. It's yeah, probably Armitage was a standout from what I remember.
And the club's partnered with Klim Swim, which we'll talk about shortly. But you spoke about 96 and then how that helped you later on. Obviously, I would imagine then coming to a home Olympics, having that experience behind you, given the pressure of the home environment, would have been really important. But one thing that to me sort of sums up a bit of Australian sport is that you let the opposition chirp a little bit beforehand and then you showed them the scoreboard afterwards. And one of my favourite memories growing up was the smash them like guitars, the air guitar moment. You came out, I think, broke the world record in the first leg, and then Thorpe brought it home. Can you sort of take us through that, where they were very lippy and then you were able to just turn around and produce what I thought was quite iconic?
Yeah, look, I'm so grateful to be able to talk about that event, 21 years on now. And we're basically, I think in that idyllic situation where we were, the underdogs, the Aussies like coming in that position. And, the Americans had never lost the event. And I think, I know that the real story behind the headline, and Gary Hall's a friend of mine who has, he basically was writing for Sports Illustrated, and he wrote this article about a preview of the Olympic Games, and towards the end of the article, he said the Australian swim team will be the one to beat, and then in sort of tongue in cheek said, but in my mind, I think we'll smash them like guitars. And in true media style, they picked up that last little bit of the interview. And obviously, when we were in the staging camp in Melbourne, it was on the front page when we opened the hotel door. And look, it wasn't something that we used really as motivation. We had enough pressure from just the public and the media, and we wanted to achieve that's something that hasn't been achieved before. But it definitely created that great drama and had that anticipation, had the build up, and they painted Gary to be this kind of this evil kind of a competitor that we had. But definitely brought out the best in us, and we had a strategy of trying to stun the Americans almost. And if we could pull it off, it'd be the only way we could is by making them overswim their races, throw them off their game. And we were lucky enough to do that. And I had the best of my life. To this point, it's still my personal best. And, Ash went in second and Fides, and they kept on sort of just holding back on that first 50 and coming home super strong, just like Thorpe did. Gary Hall caught up over 2 meters on him in the first 50, and Thorpe was with that awesome kick, and in that last 15 meters just got to the wall, 0.12 of a second in front. But it had that, that seesawing battle, and it was the best night I can remember, of my swimming career.
When you are overseas for competitions and that, I guess the timing doesn't work too badly to get up and watch games, being that you get up early and train. So, do you find that you get groups of the swimmers getting up to watch the games, and do you get any other Saints fans along getting with you, or you send the EDA one there?
Look, I'm living in Bali most of the time and commuting back and forth to Australia. Sort of, obviously now I'm following the Saints a lot more than I was when I was obviously traveling around the world. But we didn't kind of have the technology that there is obviously with the SEN app or the AFL app, or so access is a little bit trickier. But my dietitian Louise Burke and I had a couple other team members that were mad Saint supporters. So we would, we would obviously find ways to either find an Aussie pub somewhere in London, or there's ways of getting on top of it. But Aussies, I think when we travel, we gravitate to those things that we're familiar with. And if it was cricket or footy or whatever, it was always we'd find ways of streaming it on the computer or whatever. So it was always a good thing to do.
I saw in a previous interview that you did on the Saints website a while back that you said that the Olympic Village in Athens was one of the strangest places that you've been wearing the red, white, and black. Is there any stories or anything that you can tell us about trying to get other athletes or other international athletes trying to get them to watch the footy or get on board the Saints?
I'm just trying to think. Look, I can't really remember other athletes trying to. We definitely were kicking the footy, in every Olympics that we went to, and we definitely got a lot of strange looks, So and trying to, people would sort of either if we kicked wayward and people trying to get the ball back to us, there was definitely a few different techniques, and people would try and join the group. So it was. I'm sure there's enough talented athletes in those Olympic villages that if we spend a few minutes really working with them, they'd be, they'd master that drop punt. But I can't, off the top of my head, mate, I can't think of any. But there was, it's definitely turned a few heads.
Take us through, I guess, as a St Kilda supporter, some of your favourites over the journey, I guess your favourite memories, but your favourite players. I know you've rattled off some superstars that we've seen along the way, but are there any that stand out? And I guess some standout memories. The 2010 grand final, I think, for all of us is a standout memory, even if it didn't go the way we would have liked.
Yeah. Look, I was fortunate enough to live next door to Nick Riewoldt for a couple of years in South Melbourne, and my daughter was obsessed with Nick. She would be on the lookout for him, and he had that, his physique and his blonde hair, and he was just an amazingly, kind human being, and had time for myself and the kids, and so I think when it comes to his, you don't always get, these leaders that are kind at heart, but also have this ferocity and this, this ability to lead a team as well. So I think, and I know his family as well. So I think it's credit to him and his parents. So he was one that I got to know personally. And yeah, he was definitely a role model. And, my son Rocco and my daughter Stella were obsessed with Nick, that's for sure. But for me, when I was I was part of the Jaco Flyers, which was the cycling group, and spent hours with Spud. So to get to know him, he was not only was one of the funniest people I've ever met, but he was an absolute machine on the bike, and it'd be dropping one-liners and then dropping you off the wheel after he told you that joke, and he was just a freak. So, obviously for me, I was like riding a bike next to my childhood hero because, I'd watched him for many years, and then put on some lycra and riding on the bike with my footy idol. So that was a pretty amazing experience. So I'd probably say those two, and then obviously Plugger as well. So those three would be my my favourite, I reckon.
I was actually going to ask about the kids, whether you've been successful in making sure they're draped in the colours, following in your footsteps. I mean, they not necessarily be swimmers, but as long as they're Saints fans, you got to go in that direction.
Oh, absolutely, and not only just my kids, but my my sister's a Saints fan, my parents obviously as well, and I think having that connection with the guys all the way back from the King Club. I'm trying to get my nephews across, but it's really hard. They're Pie supporters, but definitely for us, even living in Bali, we go down to Finn's club and we watch the footy, and I won't let my kids barrack for any other team.
So we're on the eve of the Olympics in Tokyo, obviously.
Yeah.
I guess one of the topical trending conversation at the moment is about the athletes village and what life is like in the athletes village. As someone who's been in a few of them, what's your take on the cardboard beds and the accommodations?
Look, there's always it definitely proves that the life in the Olympic village it's not glamorous, and it's not it's really the bare necessities that you need, and most of the time you just need a comfy bed, good sort of access to food, and quiet. I think quiet environment. And look, there, I saw a picture of a gymnast doing some flips on it and jumping up and down. So they seem to be sturdy. So they'll probably they'll be durable enough for everything. But I think it just proves that I got used to. I lived in a dormitory environment at the IS, and I think when it comes to competing, everyone's in that same boat, living in the village and has same access to food and the same sort of environment. So I think it's yeah, I think it looks amazing, very orderly, and a little bit almost sterile to a degree. But being Japan, I kind of expected that. So, but I love what I love about the Olympics is that every country makes that same kind of plain almost area their own, and you can see the Aussie sort of precinct is, it's got the Aussie flag draped all over it, a bunch of kangaroos and the green and gold everywhere. So I think it comes down to, each country to decorate that's the Aussie square or, your rooms and make it homely as much as you can. But it's pretty simple. It's a pretty simple setup, and I wouldn't expected anything else, to be honest.
Now, Australians love the water, and we know the extreme importance of learning to swim, be it basic survival for young kids or whether they grow up to be, say, a missile in the water like you were. But Klim Swim, can you sort of take us through the establishment of that and also the partnership with the club and the support they've given you? But obviously we know how important that is, but a little bit about the operation.
Yeah, absolutely. So I started well, not just myself, but the whole family, my father and my mum, and also recently my sister joined the team where we actually launched back in 1999. So we grew to 5 swim schools at one point. So it's been going for quite some time, but I always had the passion of water safety and learn to swim. And I guess being a swimmer myself for so many years, it's knowledge that I've been able to pass on to the future of the sport, and just it's a skill for life for anybody that wants to partake in it, not only from a physical development point of view, social. So yeah, I'm really sort of excited that this year we're in the middle of just finalising some talks with the club and establishing a Klim Swim Centre within Moorabbin and also Seaford, and providing community programs, learn to swim, and some other health and wellness sort of programs for the surrounding area. So really excited that hopefully we can kick that off next year. But so water safety and learn to swim has been a big passion for the entire Klim family, and hopefully we can do a good job for the club as well. So I encourage all the members to get down there, and if you're in the vicinity, give it a try.
Just to tag a little bit onto the back of Nick's question just before, I saw a photo of Aaron Baines. I don't know if you've seen this or not, but standing up in the bathroom, and he actually had to turn his head sideways to fit into the room. Do you find yourself being quite tall as well, that you had anywhere like that you sort of felt like, I don't feel like I'm in the right place here?
Yeah, look, I think a lot of the time is probably not my height, but my width. I used to struggle a lot with travel for the swimmers was generally, when we were first young, like let's say in our teens, and you always want to sit next to, let's say I wanted to sit next to Hackey and Thorpe and the 3 sort of widest blokes on the team, and you're flying from Melbourne to the UK, and by the end you're sort of all just spilling out all over each other. So, look, for me, the thing that I struggled with was the mess that the guys would make. So I was a bit of an OCD kind of guy. So, cleaning up after them was almost my daily ritual. And just sharing some of the loo with the guys in the morning can become a little bit, as you said, showers, and it's not ideal. So those are the things that I definitely don't miss about that.
What's more of a roller coaster, Michael Klim's swimming career or Michael Klim's St Kilda fandom? And did you ever kind of find yourself needing to chat to guys like Nick Rewald about the ups and downs of that kind of life?
Look, I think I felt that as an athlete, my life was very kind of simplistic, to be honest. I had I started getting some injuries after around sort of the age of 25 or so, but up to that point, I had a pretty sort of steady career. And unfortunately, I did have some of those sort of, derailed maybe a little bit at the beginning, but I was able to get back on track. But Whereas, I think emotionally, it's probably this being a Saints supporter is much harder. You're sort of on the sideline. You can't do much about it. You lose your voice, etc. But I think, I have been down the club a few times, and previously when Nick was playing, and just sharing I think it's in any sport, it's just that ability to persevere and push through any adversity. So, and it's that relentless nature of, and the guys in the club probably know best, playing 20 odd games and, having to come back week after week. Whereas, we had a good sort of rest between each meet. And unfortunately, you don't have that much time. You have a long break between drinks when you can redeem yourself. But whereas in AFL, I think you got a week where you can, make up for even a loss or a bad performance. So unfortunately, we have to grind it out for months sometimes or years to try and make up for it. So, but the psychology is overall for me, I think in any sport is the same, where you've got that drive, and no matter what it is, if it's sacrifice or choices you have to make to get there, and then just putting in the effort and hard work. So it doesn't matter what you're chasing. I think the attitude's the same.
Well, Michael, thank you very much for joining us. Obviously, it's a busy time ahead, obviously, for the next couple of weeks. And I think one thing we can say is that all of the athletes, I know not everyone can march in the opening ceremony because of COVID, but of all of the athletes that are at the Olympics tomorrow, if you could offer them your career, I reckon every single one of them would take what you've obviously been able to achieve. So congratulations on that journey, and good luck over the next couple of weeks, and go Saints as well.
Yeah, go Saints, and thanks for having me, guys. And hopefully we can grab a few gold in the next couple of weeks.
Thank you, mate.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, mate.